Venezuela joins the voices of rejections against the human rights report recently presented by the United States Department of State. In Peru, the Environmental Ministry's Attorney General's office assured that the spill of some 12,000 barrels of oil registered on January 15th in the Sea of Ventanilla was caused by a lack of maintenance in the pipes of the Spanish company Repsol. Counter-protesters demonstrated against a far-right group's intention to burn a car and clash with police on Friday night in Sweden. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from Repsol Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, rejected the human rights report of the U.S. State Department and pointed out that it lacks technical rigor and credibility. Through a statement, Caracas highlighted that Washington manipulates human rights in order to advance its political interests. The foreign minister emphasized that the White House demonstrates the little interest it has in the welfare of the Venezuelan people by imposing coercive and unilateral measures that directly affect the population. The Caribbean country asked that the rejection actions against the U.S. report carried out by other nations of the region such as Cuba and Bolivia. The spiral of violence in the country continues with the murder of new social leaders in the department of Caqueta. The victim was identified as Febin Sonducuara Berreto, who was the president of the Community Action Board in the municipality of La Montañita. The victim's relative reported his disappearance on April 10th, according to reports from the Institute of Studies for Development and Peace. This would be the 54th social leader murder so far this year. Also in Colombia, the president was denounced for interfering in the election process to harm Gustavo Petro. The Colombian senator of the Democratic Pole, Ivan Cepeda, announced that he denounced the president of that country, Ivan Duque, for the alleged crime of political intervention in the presidential election after the president expressed his support to the presidential candidate Federico Gutierrez. He claimed that Duque did not adopt a neutral position and asked not only to investigate the president but also 7 municipal mayors for allegedly supporting Gutierrez, for which they did not fulfill their constitutional and legal duty to act with neutrality during the presidential election. Cepeda's complaint is part of the preamble to the presidential elections to be held next May in Colombia, in which polls point to Gustavo Petro as the winner. Argentina's bank workers demand a 60% wage increase. The Banking Association declared this Wednesday a state of alert and national mobilization, calling the union's organic body for the following weeks in view of the insufficient raise proposal. The union pointed out that the business chambers made an offer that contravenes their own inflation forecast, those wanting the workers to pay for the adjustment. In view of this, the workers' union indicated that the proposals are insufficient. The claim given by the entities is for a salary increase of 60% with a revision clause. The plenary of the Congress of Mexico will resume the discussion on the electricity reform sent by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador in October 2021. The session will be held over the weekend to discuss the electricity reform initiative. Among the head of state's proposal is the reorganization of the energy market, since it currently in the hands of foreign private companies. The authorities explained that if the initiative is approved, 54% of the electricity market will be in the hands of the state-owned Federal Electricity Commission, while 46% will be in the hands of foreign or national companies willing to invest. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador rejected criticism from a United Nations committee that urged the country to tackle impunity in case of enforced disappearance. The UN Committee on Enforced Disappearances said that organized crime became a central perpetrator of disappearance in Mexico, with varying degrees of participation, acquiescence, or omission by public servants. López Obrador also dismissed the Commission's call to demilitarize security tasks in the Latin American country. The president said that the UN delegates do not have all the information about the facts. The number of people missing began to soar in the 2000s, with increasing drug-related violence, particularly after then-President Felipe Calderón launched a military offensive against the cartels in 2006.
No international organization is going to put us in the dark if we are acting legally, humanely, if we do not allow corruption and impunity.
Si estamos actuando
Haiti warned of threats of a plot to assassinate national political figures as part of a conspiracy aimed at maintaining internal destabilization. According to local media, the commissioner of the government of Port-au-Prince informed the judicial police headquarters of this alleged plan, which is already known to the public ministry. A government spokesman said that some members of the Democratic and Popular Sector movement, as well as several former opposition senators and other leaders, are in danger. According to the denunciation, several former police agents who were presumably hired as executors were identified in the plot. The alert confirms the state of insecurity in Haiti, where organized crime controls an important part of the main cities. We are taking a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In Peru, the Environmental Prosecutor's Office held the Spanish multinational energy and petrochemical company Repsol responsible for the oil spill in the Ventanilla Sea. The Public Prosecutor's Office of the Ministry of the Environment indicated that it holds the Spanish company responsible for the spill on the grounds that the underwater crude distribution system was not properly maintained. For its part, the company maintains its position that the disaster was caused by a bad maneuver of the Italian-flagged vessel, Mare Doricum, during the process of unloading the crude oil. In this regard, the Attorney General's office indicated that in 30 days, the expertise applied to the underwater crude oil distribution system will be ready, and in approximately another 30 days, the civil lawsuit against Repsol will be ready as well. The Chinese government asserted this Friday that ties with Russia are solid despite harassment by several countries. On Friday, Chinese parliament leader Li Shangsu met with Russian Federation Council President Valentina Matviyenko. At the meeting, they firmly stated that the friendship between the two countries is mature, resilient, and stable. They stressed that the relationship between China and Russia is based on a policy of no confrontation and of not causing harm to other nations. The Chinese representative emphatically said that despite the persecution of the West, China will keep its relationship with the government of Russia. This Friday, Russian state-owned Gazprom announced that gas exports to China have increased through the Siberian power pipeline. The Russian press office reported Friday that the increase in gas exports falls within the framework of a long-term contract signed with China's National Oil Corporation. Exports began late 2019, and in 2020 they stood at 4.1 billion cubic meters. These gas exports are expected to steadily increase, still reaching the projected annual capacity of 38 billion cubic meters by 2025. Both countries are starting the Siberian Power 2 project, which consists of a pipeline to China through Mongolia with a capacity of 50 billion cubic meters per year. And Russia expelled several members of the European Union in response to similar measures adopted by Brussels in the wake of the Kremlin's special military operation in Ukraine. The government expelled 18 diplomats from the European Union's representation in the country. According to the authorities, these measures were taken after numerous European countries such as Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Slovenia, Austria, Poland, Greece, or Croatia expelled dozens of Russian diplomats from their countries. For its part, the regional bloc rejected Moscow's decision as unjustified. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov said Friday that Russian troops fired missiles at a machine-building plant outside Kiev in response to recent Ukrainian attacks on a Russian village. In his daily briefing, Konashenkov said the number and scale of missile strikes on targets in Kiev will increase in response to any terrorist attacks or sabotage by the Kiev nationalist regime on Russian territory. The spokesman for the Ministry of Defense also affirmed that Russian anti-aircraft missile system shot down a Ukrainian helicopter that attacked the Russian village of Klimovo. Let us now go to the Donbass, where the anti-fascist war waged for the last 8 years by the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republic is strongly supported by the symbols of the Soviet Union and the fight against the German invasion. Our special envoy Alejandro Kirk has the details.
This monument on my back is a memorial dedicated to the heroes of the Second World War, or Great Patriotic War as it is known for the Soviet people. What does it mean in the current situation? In the Donbass, the parallel of the current conflict with the war against German Nazism is inevitable. These days it is again at stake the very own existence against a similar enemy. The Soviet red flag unites the past with the present.
Throughout the years of our struggle, I have handed out hundreds of red flags with hammer and sickle at the request of the military. The commanders come to me in the Central Committee, the fighters come and say, "Give me the red flag, give me the red flag." I give a red flag with a hammer and sickle, or a victory flag. There was a victory flag like that over the Reichstag in 1945. Here, where the Soviet Union ended, the army did not make any de-Sovietization, although symbols remained. Here we have a sample of Lenin, still on the central square of Donetsk, and nobody has thought to take it down from there. They have been given a new life because at this moment the Russian society has been consolidated around this special operation. Because many considered that Nazism had already disappeared, but when they realized what had happened to us here in Donetsk, they understood, and in all Ukraine, that Nazism unfortunately has been reborn or wants to be reborn again.
The tree-lined streets and the vast public spaces of Donetsk are a window into the Soviet past. Many would like to see in this a return of that egalitarian, simple and unpretentious life, but apparently they are wrong.
The issue is controversial. Our people of Donetsk are collective people in their spirit, internationalist. They are people who are accustomed and tolerant of different religious denominations. Here we are, people of collective thinking, maybe even of socialist thinking. But unfortunately, the Russian Federation, which today helps us in the fight against fascism, is not building a socialist society.
While Ukraine slipped into savage neoliberalism, in the Donbass some pillars of socialism are maintained up to this day.
When the coup started in Kiev, they were trying to destroy Soviet symbols, of course. So all the movement which started on Donbass was connected with Lenin Square and the monument of Lenin. They were trying to protect it. And of course, it's not a class struggle as we wish it would be, but it is highly connected with the Soviet past and the Soviet social system, which still works in Donetsk.
In Donetsk, the battles are literally fought in the suburbs, but the city remains clean, peaceful and friendly, with no police in the streets and no fences on public buildings. Cristian Inostroza and Alejandro Kirk, Telesur, Donetsk, Donbass.
We have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Counter-protesters demonstrated against a far-right group's intention to burn a Quran in Orrebo in the central Sweden clashed with police on Friday night. It was the second day running that there had been clashes on the fringes of a rally by the anti-immigration and anti-Islamic hardline movement led by Danish-Swedish Rasmus Paludan. At this gathering, usually only attended by a few sympathizers, he attempted to burn a Quran. Paludan has provoked other incidents on several occasions in recent years. In November 2020, he was arrested in France and then deported. 5 other activists were arrested in Belgium shortly afterwards, accused of wanting to spread hatred by burning a Quran in Brussels. In Palestine, more than 150 people were injured after an attack by Israeli occupation forces on the Al-Aqsa Mosque in the city of Jerusalem. At the same time, Israeli forces announced the capture of more than 400 Palestinian citizens during the event. The events took place after Israeli state forces stormed the mosque, considered the third holiest place for Muslims, firing rubber bullets, stun grenades and tear gas, while a crowd of worshippers were performing prayers for the holy month of Ramadan. The event sparked clashes between the Palestinian citizens and Israeli forces throughout the occupied territories, in addition to the reaction of many nations in solidarity with the Palestinian cause. The U.S. imposed military and economic sanctions to create crises in other countries and continue to cause turmoil around the world so as to further maintain its hegemony, said a Syrian expert on international affairs. Mohammad Omari, a Syrian expert on international affairs, said that the U.S. is responsible for the chaos in Syria as it helped worsen the crisis by arming and supporting the opposition forces and then intervene militarily, seized Syria's oil fields and food resources. Omari also noted that since the outbreak of the Ukraine's crisis, Washington continued to stir up the flames because it continues to increase sanctions on Russia while sending arms and mercenaries to Ukraine. He claimed all the double standard practices by the U.S. are detrimental to ending the Ukrainian conflict. At the conclusion of the 32nd session of our Regional Conference for Africa held 11th to 14th April in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, African countries committed to raise their ambitions and accelerate actions towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, including ending poverty and hunger. 62 ministers from 54 African countries participated in the conference with high turnout thanks to the hybrid mode, including attending in person and joining online. Federal Director General Ku Dang-ju, in his closing remarks, urged countries to adopt enabling policies, innovation and science, and proper investment for agri-food systems transportation in Africa. In the ministerial declaration, ministers welcomed FAO's strategic framework 2022-2031 under four betters: better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life, leaving no one behind. In Egypt, food prices increased by nearly 3% as global inflationary pressures spiked in the wake of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The increase took effect on the morning of Friday, April 15th. The new prices were announced on the cabinet's Facebook page. The price of 95-octane gasoline increased to 9.75 Egyptian pounds per liter from 9.5. Meanwhile, the cost of 92-octane rose to 8.75 from 8.5, while 80-octane rose to 7.5 from 7.25. The prices of diesel, which is the main fuel used to transport goods and commuters, were, however, not affected. Fuel prices hikes are expected to reflect inflation rates, which already jumped from 10% in February to 12% in March. In a bid to stabilize the Egyptian economy, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates pledged a total of $22 billion in the forms of deposits and direct investments. Demonstrators marched again Friday in the U.S. city of Grand Rapids, Michigan, to express their anger at police over the fatal shooting of a black man earlier this month. The crowd chanted and marched to the city's police headquarters. One woman held a sign reading "Respect existence or expect resistance." Videos show a police officer struggling with Patriglioia over a taser before fatally shooting him in the head while the man was face down on the ground. Prominent civil rights attorney Ben Crump has called for the officer in the shooting to be fired and prosecuted. State police are still investigating. Demonstrators gathered in Paris to protest against presidential candidates Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen as part of a national mobilization against the far-right 8 days before the second round of the presidential elections. Protests are expected to happen throughout the country. There was also a protest by the Extinction Rebellion Collective to protest against climate inaction by the government. Activists demanded from the two presidential candidates to make commitments towards protecting the environment. Police were present at the largely peaceful protest, which was aimed to last for 3 days. At least 2 people died in the U.S. state of New Mexico due to a wildfire affecting the region. Local authorities say the fire was caused by a downed power line. In the flames destroyed more than 240 homes and other infrastructure in a mountain community in New Mexico, and close to 5,000 people remain evacuated. The firefighters indicated that the strong winds are making it difficult to extinguish the fire and threaten to fuel the blaze. They also explained that since the beginning of the year, more than 18,000 forest fires were registered in the region. And we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Arben.